Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Planning Commission special agenda meeting, Thursday, November 30th, 2023 at 6 p.m. Thank you all for joining, members of the public, those joining on Facebook and on Zoom. Call the meeting to order at 6:01. If I can have some from staff do roll call. Please.
Chair Roberto Cruz,
Present.
Vice Chair Jody Perez Alpera, present. Commissioner Sandy Forte,
Present.
Commissioner Sergio.
Present. All present, if you could all stand for the pledge of allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So at this time, I'll open the public comment. Any member of the public may address the planning commission on items not appearing on the agenda and items of interest to the public that are within the jurisdiction of the planning commission. Public comments are generally limited to 3 minutes. The chair may further limit the time for public comments depending on an agenda schedule. Please be brief and to the point. No action or discussion shall be taken on an item not appearing on the agenda, except that the commission members may briefly respond to statements made or questions posed by members of the public. Are there any members of the public here today? Any public comments? Any via Zoom or?
I don't have any hands.
Okay. Close the public comment section. There are no minutes to approve. We will move on to the commission presentations. We have a presentation by John Lee from Retail California on the Soledad Marketplace Shopping Center. Sir, welcome.
Good to see you guys again. Thanks for having me. I correspond with Megan and Mariana from time to time on our project. There's a revised site plan that's still working in some aspects, but I don't want you guys to feel like you're in the dark on what we're working on. I'm happy to share the names and what's going on and what's the latest, and also open it up for questions if you have any. Currently, right now, if you want to start, is there any way can you put the site plan up on there? Probably easier for me to point to it.
Oh, it's on the PowerPoint. It will be under the second item, but that's fine. Oh, I think that's from the previous, it's not in there. Okay. Good thing on that one.
I can point it out.
Okay.
We're having some
Cool.
technical difficulties.
We'll show it right now. You can continue while we go to
Sure. Well, I think you guys all have a copy of this, or a revised site plan that's still working. Obviously, as you know, the grocery outlets open and operating and, going south from there. We are working on this combination in between the proposed Tractor Supply and grocery outlet of, starting from grocery outlet with Famous Footwear, Ulta, and Five Below. Originally, this, it was, since the Ross deal is no longer moving forward, we had some issues with these tenants in the beginning, but now they're starting to they're coming back. we're starting to see this happen pretty much everywhere where developers are unable to put these raw steels together. They still see value in this market, so right now we're trying to work on a way to get all three of them done and in the same building. Tractor Supply is still proposed. I know they put some of their due diligence on hold. They're waiting for the parcel map to be finished. That's just the way their protocols, but we're still fairly confident that that's moving forward. The DeVita is, we're scheduling to break ground in the middle of the month. Should be, around December 15th, 16th, somewhere in there. And then, obviously got the theaters open, and then starting from the north end of the shopping center, we are working on a deal here on the corner with Habit Burger, which I think would be a really good addition to this project. Directly south of there, we had some meetings with Chipotle about coming to Soledad. They have some interest here. They want to see some more traffic generators. So, I mean, obviously, as we're working to put more tenants together, we're hoping to provide that, but I know they're looking at Soledad and they're looking at Greenfield. And we're just kind of hoping that they go in our direction. Dutch Rose, as you know, if you've been by the site, they're under construction. They typically move pretty quickly. I asked them for a projected opening date. If I had to guess, it's probably going to be, that'll be dependent upon PG&E, but hopefully it'll be, March, April. If I had to guess, they typically build their buildings in 90 to 120 days. Directly south of Dutch is a proposed car wash. I've handed out some examples of Quick Quack. This isn't the, official request for the CUP for them. I'd like to have them here for that, but they're a national car wash company. I know they have over 200 locations in several states. These car washes have become more and more part of retail centers over the last decade. They do a nice job. They're environmentally friendly. And most importantly, at least from our standpoint, is they drive traffic to the shopping center. The car wash where it is on the site plan is strategically placed. The idea is when you have them at the back end of the shopping center and they attract X amount of people to come into the project, they're going to have to drive by every retailer to get there. So that's why they're placed where they are on the site plan. But these are, I kind of feel like we're at a tipping point in this project where we've got some momentum and we just need to convert all these deals. And, we've been asking, what is your vision and goal? I mean, our goal is to get this thing at full build out with strong tenants that are going to succeed and be successful. And, I think we're getting really close to getting there. But, we are going to look for some support from the city to help us, get these things over the hump. As trivial as it sounds with this car wash, it's important. It draws more traffic to this shopping center. And this, to check all the boxes for really good real estate, obviously you want to be on two busy streets. We don't have that. You want to be in a 360-degree trade area. We don't have that either. And you want to be in a large market. We don't have that either. We've got a few things that are working against us. But I mean, in spite of that, we're still being able to attract these retailers. And, like I was saying, I feel like we're very close to getting this to the next step, which I know we all want to do. So at this time, I just want to open it up for questions. I want to keep everybody apprised as to what we're doing. I'm happy to come down here every month for a meeting, give an update, or every 2 months, whatever, whatever is best for this project. We're obviously heavily vested in this thing. There's been a lot of effort put into it. We'd like to get it done. And at this time, I'd just like to open it up for any questions.
Yes, go ahead if you have any questions.
So so for the car wash, do you already have, someone, franchisee or what is it?
It's a Quick Quack.
Uh-huh.
They're a large company. It started with a company called Surf Through, and they're very similar. They kind of have an agreement amongst one another where they don't go in each other's territories, and the heads of the companies know each other. So this was one where it was going to be Surf Through, and they decided this would be Quick Quack's territory. So we ended up shifting gears from Surf Through to Quick Quack, which in my mind, I think is a bonus. They have a lot more locations, Surf Through, smaller operation. These car washes are pretty slick. I mean, you show up and they can read your license plate and you just go right through. I mean, it's very easy to do. It's not, they've got it down to a really good science. That's why they have, 200 of them. And I mean, they're in Brentwood. I mean, they're in high-end markets. They have a lot of stores and they do a nice job. But so I think, I think they're an upgrade from Surf Through from when we started. I met with the heads of their company at their conference in San Diego.
Not to interrupt, but I want to be careful that we're not too much, since this item is gonna be heard, that we don't go into too much detail about that, but maybe more broadly talk
Sure.
about the vision for the center.
Sure.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No, that's okay. I'll let them speak on behalf of themselves. They know more about their company than I do, but that's just what I've been impressed so far.
Ready, so. No other questions? Good, all right, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay,
I mean, and I didn't mean to stop the questions. I just meant not to get too into the detail about something that's gonna be coming before you, maybe in January.
Oh,
And,
Okay.
and this was just sort of me, trying to give, kind of an update as to where we are. Obviously, their company as a tenant will come in and present. I'll be here as well. But I don't want to sound like a broken record and be redundant, but it is very important for us to get that done. We're very close to all of these things starting to fall in line. And real estate's like dominoes. Once the first one falls, the rest of them go. And when you're dealing with a smaller market, it's the more large companies that we can bring in, it will make the rest of them feel better about it. I mean, I would hate to lose a company like Chipotle, the Greenfield, when we have this here. And if we can put this together, and it's not a guarantee that they will come here, but it gives us a much better chance.
So why are they waiting till January to present and bring it up?
Cause they have to submit a application for a conditional use permit amendment. So. The reason why I asked John here is because the planning commission has asked many times, what's the overall vision for the marketplace? And I think it came up when there was a shift from Ross to the Tractor Supply. So I thought it important for him to kind of talk where they're going, and I know that the public is also asking some questions about it. And you have an opportunity to, ask questions about what that vision is, what it might look like. In addition to the users, so just to get a sense and start thinking about, things that you might want to ensure in terms of circulation and aesthetics. I know that you will have an opportunity, I think, to look at some of the design as they come forward, so. You could also provide some feedback ahead of time, so we could provide some guidance to the projects as they come in.
okay. So then, and I know you mentioned it in your presentation, with the other proposed retailers. Aside from Dutch Brothers, you're still in negotiations with those retailers before they come to the city?
Well, Tractor Supply, it's moving forward, but they won't sign their agreements until the parcel map is complete. It's their corporate policy. But I mean, as far as most of these retailers go through what's called a real estate committee. Once it's approved, they move forward. That's already been stamped, done, approved. Now it's just more of a function of, I know we're working through this parcel map. And once that's complete, then they'll get their lease signed, and then I'm sure they'll start the site plan review process, construction documents, so on and so forth. But that's moving full speed ahead. And the other deals are working. The car wash lease is basically signed, but it will be subject to CUP. The Habit deal here, it has not gone to their real estate committee. I can tell you when we met with them and told them all the things that are going on, including the car wash, I mean, it starts to paint a little better picture for them.
Okay.
And these other three soft good tenants, which I call Five Below and Famous Footwear and Ulta, we're working, I think we finally found dimensions that will work for all three.
Okay.
So we're just going back and retooling those from what we originally had with them.
Okay.
What is Ulta?
Ulta is a cosmetic company.
That's a good addition.
I was gonna say,
Bigger than we
Yeah.
is, like,
Oh, yeah.
I'm not surprised you didn't know.
Right, I was gonna say, let's go to your wife and go. Right?
Okay.
Luxury.
Thank you, very much, Mr. Lee. If there are no other questions, then we'll move on to the next portion of the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. No, it kept beeping, so I didn't know if I was recent, if I had to, if I was getting a message or something.
Oh.
Or if it was interfering with anything.
I do have one more question, is that okay? Or are we done?
Sure.
Sure.
I'm just looking at these, are these possible tentative clients or, you know, or are these are hopefuls? Like you've got, I'm looking at what you have here. Was this just like a sample?
Those were examples of, and those are just a few examples. They
Okay.
have over 200 stores. Those are just showing quick quacks in other shopping.
Okay, all right,
And it was just for example only.
okay. So what we've got going here is what you mentioned.
Yeah, the site plan here for our project is our project. The other ones were just for reference. I know, I just wanted to show how they are tenants in other retail shopping centers.
Okay.
And they're in some pretty large centers too. If you take a look, there's, you know, some impressive tenant lineups there and, you know, they're looked at as a traffic generator.
Actually, I do have another question, sorry about that. I know you mentioned Habit Burger over here in the corner on the left side, right? Did you approach seafood restaurant, shrimp, what is it, that's it, crab bucket, is it, Chick-fil-A, KFC, something different?
You know, we have made several phone calls. The seafood places they're not really active right now in the market. I mean, there's a handful of tenants that are out at any given time doing things, and we're pretty aware of who's out there. We did talk to Chick-fil-A. They said Soledad's too small. But I mean, those are our first phone calls because those are, you know, they're really good tenants. But no, I mean, we've contacted a lot of people regarding this project, a lot of different companies. But, you know, I think, you know, the tenants that we have on here would all be very good additions to this market. I mean, I know that we're happy with it, but it's like I said, they're not all done yet, but we're continuing to push and, you know, we'd really like to get some more of these, you know, buildings up, get them built, get the shopping center stabilized and be at full build out. I mean, that's our vision and goal.
Yeah, because I mean, Habit Burger is good, but we really have 3 burger pieces. So maybe something different.
They are better than the other burger places.
Oh, no, they are, I believe you, that's what I'm saying,
They
it's
are.
good.
I go all the time.
Yeah.
One more time. Okay. I apologize again.
No problem.
But we can, if any other questions arise, during the public hearing, we can still ask any questions. If anything arises.
related to the item.
Okay,
And I'll just say this, I can get this from Megan and Ariana. If you guys are looking for updates, I'm happy to give them. You know, however often it works best for everybody for me to come down here and tell you what's going on, what we're doing. I'll be as completely transparent as, you know, as what we're doing. I believe in transparency and I don't want you guys to think that we're hiding things. I mean, we're pretty much an open book at this point. There's no other properties here in Soledad competing with us. I want you guys to know what we're working on.
I'm looking forward to the shopping center, so.
Yeah, we are-
You
we
know,
are
what
too.
is the most efficient way or of giving us an update, whether it's a, you know, a quick memo on what's going on or the status of these, that would be great. I know that in the past it's taken a while for commercial development, so most people that live in Soledad will say, yeah, sure, this will be built in 10 years.
I think this
You know,
project's
so
been
that's
going on
just
for what, 15 years? Are we the third or fourth people to take a swing at it? I mean, we will get it done.
Well, and I guess that's what I'm saying is,
Yeah.
you know, I come from a project management background, so milestones are good.
Yeah,
Let's see what the progress is and just a quick, it doesn't have to be an official update every single time we have a planning commission meeting. But a quick memo or something that illustrates where we're at
I'd be happy to do it.
with that way we can also, and if people ask us how we're doing with the shopping center, what's really coming.
Sure,
And when it's targeted, you know, to open up, you know, that would be great
sure.
for us, you know, and I got, you know, March 2024 for Dutch Brothers, right? A lot of people are excited about
Plus
it.
or minus, the only thing that could hurt that is PG&E. I mean, we got the grocery outlet that opened here should have opened months before that. So there's certain things that are out of our control and out of their control, but it's, that was, hopefully it's better now. We have, I think we have a better rep that's assigned to the project, but I mean, from a building standpoint, they should be done by then. There's no reason why they wouldn't be unless it rains a lot.
Knock on.
Right?
Through the chair, I did want to just mention one thing. I would encourage the planning commission to encourage the public to shop at the Soledad Marketplace. The way that we can convince these commercial folks that we need more commercial is if people are shopping and not going to Salinas, we don't get anything out of it. So go to the cinema, go to the grocery outlet, and when Dutch Brothers opens, go to that.
Right, and that's why I was asking, because you're absolutely right, we gotta leave our dollars here, right? And so far our business is here, and that's why I was asking about the various, restaurants, if you will. That way we have somewhere, a variety to go to, and we don't have to leave town.
Yeah,
And do my best to go and, shop locally at the grocery stores, and I go to the cinemas as well, so.
yeah, I mean,
It's important.
that's the idea, is that there's a lot of retail leakage here, as you guys know, and people driving to Salinas and other markets spending the money, and I mean, that's what we're, there's demand here, we just need to get the buildings up and get the tenants open.
Yeah, and I'll be very honest, I do go to, sometimes I don't go to Salinas, I go straight to Monterey or Gilroy.
Yeah,
But because they have a variety, of retail shops. Ulta being one of those, to go pick up a nice gift for someone,
we would love
it's an
it,
option, so.
we're working hard to put those three tenants together.
Yeah, not to discount what we have here with our other small businesses. But name brand is nice.
Yeah, I agree,
And that's, I think, where, I can appreciate what we're doing to improve our commercial and our small businesses, and then also the availability of the products. I have a business background, so.
sure. Well, these are all the people that we're marketing to, and like I said, I feel like we're getting closer and we have some momentum, and, we're trying to get these things done. It's a hard environment for development, it's a hard environment for real estate, but, we're doing the best we can to try to get this project done.
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Okay. So now that we're asking questions, questions now. It's more for that, because I'm looking at one of the proposed, Five Below. And how that might affect some of the local businesses on Front Street. Has that conversation been brought up to those business owners? Are they aware that Five Below potentially is coming?
We don't know, and we can, unfortunately, we can only regulate land use, not who is in a shopping center. So we can certainly, if it does happen, make sure that we can continue to support small businesses, and we do have given quite a few loans to smaller businesses along Front Street. We have the facade program where we're trying to get participation in the facade program. So we do, and we're looking at trying to do more activities on Front Street. We have the Spook Fest, and now we're going to be having the Christmas parade to encourage people to shop. But we unfortunately don't have the power to regulate land use. You can regulate things like design, circulation, traffic, but we wouldn't have, too much say on and John hasn't locked them in yet, so I don't wanna do another situation where we're telling everyone Ross is coming, now they're not.
These are all in process, we're working on them. I mean, I guess I would say, I mean, I don't have the data in front of me to back this up, but I mean, I can tell you that with the amount of money that is spent outside of your city. I mean, when another retail like this shows up, I mean, it's more likely that dollars will be spent there instead of
It's a
Salinas,
Yeah. I
as
think
opposed
so.
to coming out of the existing retailers here. I mean,
Right.
I know we looked at this early on and a lot of the dollars and tax dollars that are all the funds that are being spent in this town, a lot of them are outside Soledad. So, I mean, always bringing in more retailers, more businesses. I know you guys, with the annexation that you did, you're gonna double in size over the next 20 years probably. I mean, I think that it's a good time to get this thing going and get it up.
I agree, and Five Below does provide branding stuff, you know, at a lower cost. All it means is our small businesses are gonna have to get competitive. I think we're ready for that.
But it's, I mean, to your point, we will, work to continue to support our small businesses in the downtown, and that's one way the city can help preserve that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Barbara.
Okay. So we will now close the commission presentation. Moving on to the public hearing, public hearing 1. The resolution number 2023-12, a resolution of the planning commission of the city of Soledad announcing findings and recommendations that the city council of Soledad approve a tentative parcel map for the Soledad marketplace to subdivide APN 022-292-20, 024-025-026, or also 029, 30, 34, and 36 to create a total of 8 lots located at the southeast corner of Nestles Road and Los Coches Road. And Ariana, you'll be doing it, so welcome Ariana to provide the staff report.
Okay, thank you, Chair Cruz. So we'll do a brief staff report regarding the public hearing number 1 for the tentative map, subdivision map 2023-01. Similarly, this does relate to the Soledad marketplace, as we've just discussed the vision. This is also something that will contribute towards the next phases of development in the marketplace. So tonight we are presenting a resolution to approve the provided tentative map initiated by Mr. John Lee and San Benito Engineering for the Soledad marketplace. This site is zoned highway commercial, and the application is pursuant to Soledad Municipal Chapter 16.08 tentative maps for the subdivision of seven parcels to 8. The commission will consider all matters pertinent to approval, condition of approval, or denial of the map, and shall forward its written recommendation to the city council. So planning commission will be able to review and provide approval and recommendation of approval to the city council. It will be given final approval of the tentative map to then move forward towards a final map. The Soledad marketplace has already been analyzed under a 2007 mitigated negative declaration for its California environmental quality to conform with the California Environmental Quality Act. As you may know, this project and the location has been in construction since 2007, around 2007, 2008, and has gone through different stages. All is still kind of being pushed forward to current years, and because it was under separate ownership, and the project was done in 2007. The new owner is now wanting to move forward with a separate tentative map that would help clear out, the parcels for any leasing or selling of those individual lots. As mentioned, this is a 13.6 acre property located at the corner of Nestles Road and Los Coches. It was previously known as the Soledad Village Shopping Center, and approved in 2007. Now, we are bringing it forward to be, completely redone and considered for, the tentative map to divide 7 separate parcels into 8. So this would be modifying, the parcels, adding an additional parcel, not including the Premier Cinemas location. So the total shopping center will have around 9 parcels. Currently, the property is home to Grocery Outlet, Premier Cinemas, and soon to welcome Dutch Bros. Other than that, the lots are vacant, and as we've heard, there's still, the development is still coming forward. So with regards to the 2005 general plan, the subdivision tentative map applications do have to be considered for general plan consistency. Because of different land use element provisions, staff is recommending that it's consistent with our 2005 general plan. That the uses of the marketplace will increase shopping opportunities, encourage new commercial development. And will require an expansion of the visitor sector for local economy. So it definitely will help us to increase economic development in Soledad. Because it'll help future tenants secure leases with the current owner, as the owner has explained. So it's consistent with our 2005 general plan. In addition, it's also consistent with the circulation element. So during the 2007 approval process, the plan and the location was studied to make sure it gives us a level D service for circulation. Some of those conditions are currently tied to the previous tentative map or the condition of approval that will require, and a lot of the improvements already been done, the connectivity between Nestles Road and Los Coches, street, sidewalks, and so on, or any on-site circulation for the property. Next, we do have to provide findings for zoning ordinance consistency. Because this is part of the highway commercial district and it's proposing uses under the highway commercial zoning district, or is adding conditionally approved uses. We see that the site will not be detrimental to health, safety, or comfort, convenience of the general welfare of persons residing or working on the neighborhood. So that's something that this location is conforming to. I've mentioned regarding circulation, the tentative map provides adequate internal circulation for pedestrians, motorists, and as each project comes forward, staff is still looking at each project individually, or it's being brought up to planning commission to make sure it's still in conformance with those items. So currently in the screen on the presentation, it's a visual of how the existing subdivision map is. So what we are changing ultimately is the red area, and the existing Premier Cinemas, which is in the yellow, is something that is staying, it's not being touched since it's a separate owner. Next slide, please. So currently this is a proposed tentative map. There already has been a lot line adjustment for parcels 1 and 2, as seen in the final property lines there. This was done earlier this year and did not have to come to planning commission because it's something we can do at a administrative level. However, when we're subdividing parcels, 5 or more parcels, it is an action that has to come to planning commission and then recommended to city council. So therefore, from the previous map we saw, the applicant is moving forward with a tentative subdivision map to pretty much create a new parcel and rearrange new lines on the subdivision. With this new tentative map, we have to conform with chapter 16.08 of the Solid Air Municipal Code, which will show, street alignments, drainage, sanitary facilities, locations and size of easements, right of ways, trees, traffic access, and so on, that would, conform to city regulations. Again, mentioned because, something important to know is that because this project was already approved and done in since 2007, a lot of those improvements already been done or have been done due to the ongoing construction. However, due to, the owner's request, a new tentative map, we have to still consider those items or, move forward just with the revisions that we want to proceed with, the applicant would like to proceed with. Furthermore, commercial subdivisions must comply with certain regulations regarding lot size. So one thing we do have to look at is on the width and the street design. Average lot size for this new subdivision map is 1.254 acres. And the minimum lot size for the new tentative map is 0.63 acres. Additionally, any new commercial parcels must have a minimum of 5,000 square feet and a minimum of 50 feet. And the proposed application that we're considering today for approval meets those requirements, so it is in conformance with the minimum lot sizes. And again, majority of the improvements, frontage, right of ways, offsite traffics and driveways have already been completed. And as projects come in, the planning division and will review them for conformance. Attached is Exhibit A, which is the resolution and the conditions of approval. Ultimately, those conditions of approval were the ones that have been with the project since 2007. The only item we added is in conformance with the stormwater regulations, which is the O&M agreement, that whenever someone else comes in, you do have to redo and kind of comply with stormwater management on site. So that's something we're proposing tonight as a condition to keep moving this development forward. Last, staff is seeking planning commission action to approve resolution 2023-11 based on the information and the material provided in the staff report. Upon approval, we will be able to continue to a public hearing at the next council meeting. But it's also important to note that it's important to secure approval of this map is important to secure commercial leases for the owner, as it helps the developers understand what is conditionally approved on the property before anything else gets constructed. If there's any questions for staff, I'm happy to answer on the application and the process. As we saw, we do have the property owner here if other questions, right?
So this is the application for the conditional use for just to change the tentative map.
Yes, just the tentative map.
Now, these are the retailers he's working with. If, and not pushing anything here, but if something were to change with the car wash, we wanted to build another retail or restaurant, then it would come back here, or this isn't final, like if we approve this.
If the use is not part of the existing conditional use permit, it would come to planning commission. Or any other conformance that, you know, they want to deviate from our current zoning or planning standards, we would have to come back to planning commission.
And through the chair, it's just essentially, this is the tentative map that is establishing the parcels. It doesn't set use or anything. It would have to comply with the existing conditional use permit. So depending on the outcome of that conditional use permit process, it wouldn't stop them from building anything that's allowed.
And how long would this be approved for? I think I read it 24 months.
To pretty much finalize it and could pretty much record it to the county.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you set forward the tentative map, and then the next step is a final map.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that we provide a time frame to completion. If not, then they would have to come back and go through the same process. And maybe additional condition. They risk losing or adding more conditions,
Okay,
on that.
thank you. Any other questions for staff?
I think all the questions would have been, were addressed with Megan explaining that
We would
this is
open
just
public-
addressing the parcel, that's it.
Yeah.
Not the
Yeah, it's
businesses
better than
within, all we're
Uh-huh.
doing is
The wording.
saying, it's okay
Oh.
to add that extra piece or subdivide it in. is that
Yeah, to
piece.
subdivide it that way.
Mhm.
And it has to comply with the subdivision map act.
Mhm.
And it does.
Mhm.
Okay.
Alright, kind of wing this. Okay, so at this time, I'll open the public hearing section. Any member of the public may address the planning commission. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Please be brief and to the point. So I'll open the public comment at 6:41. Are there any members of the public? Anybody on Zoom?
We don't have any.
Okay. Then I will close the public comment section at 6:41. And move on to the planning commission action. You guys. That's what they said. Oh, sounds like that.
And through the chair, you can, you don't have, since you already read the whole description before, someone can make a motion that just consider and approve the resolution if that's what you want. You don't have to read the whole entire thing, which is quite a mouthful.
I'd like to, motion to approve, public hearing -1. Can we get a second?
I think is it -1 or -1 2? Oh,
Oh, the
sorry.
resolution would be in the motion,
Yeah.
should be in the motion.
So it's resolution number 2023-12.
Mhm.
Mhm.
All right, I second the motion.
Okay, do a roll. Do a roll call. Aye.
Vice Chair Josie Perez Rivera,
Aye.
Commissioner Sandy Forte,
Aye.
Commissioner Sergio Diaz.
Aye. Okay, and then so the motion passes.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
Awesome, great. All right, we'll move on to public hearing number 2.
And through the chair, just to for people in the public, the planning commission is recommending approval to city council. This matter will go to city council on December 13th for final action. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, here we go, another, this one's not as big, word wise. A resolution number 2023-13, resolution of the planning commission of the city of Soledad announcing findings and recommending approval of the site plan for SAC Wireless on behalf of Verizon Wireless to construct a wireless unmanned telecommunication facility located at Blossom Thunder Park on Gavilan Drive, Soledad, California, 93996. And so, Diana, you'll be providing that. Welcome again.
Thank you. I'll be doing a brief presentation on, resolution number 2023-12. And then after we do have a representative, from SAC Wireless here, who will then, add some items to the presentation. So the item being considered tonight is approval of the site plan for the new wireless unmanned facility at Blossom Santa Park. As you may know, this item was brought to planning commission earlier this year, for a conditional use permit. It was approved with the condition that the site plan was to be, approved by the director to move forward, with the condition that it was farthest away from the basketball courts. This was during the time, where, we had brought that item back twice, I believe, for the planning commission, with design, comments, and, also placement of the location. I know, due to the community and economic development director, now being under our new city manager, we are deciding to bring this item back for planning commission consideration for site plan approval. Due to the new proposed location of this facility, and the site plan and the images are provided on the staff report. To ensure that the public has the opportunity to comment on the revised location, we are moving forward with this public hearing. We did publish it in the newspaper as well as other public hearings, so, the marketplace, I forgot to mention, we did have to notice that out as a requirement. And notice it out within 300 feet radius of the location, as well as this one, so we did notice out, this site plan, hearing. Again, something to consider that this already has conditional use approval. This, the item tonight is, SAC Wireless fulfilling the condition that the site plan shall be approved, for them to move forward with, all the building requirements. And also at a later time, approval of a lease through the city council, which is an action that is taken, is not under planning commission jurisdiction. During the regular planning commission meeting held on April 13th, we did presented some details, on the proposed monopine. If I can get the next slide, please. Okay, and this is the design features that were currently approved based on the conditional use permit during that time. Again, it was approved where the director referred, the director is now referring the site plan approval to the planning commission for their review and consideration. And then we do have to conform with the site plan approvals of 17.44 of the municipal code to guide the issuance of the building permits, which is subject to an approved lease by council. Next slide. So this is where it was previously considered. I think it was even further back, but that's the location that it was still that was given to the director to review and consider. And then the next slide, please. Which is next to the basketball courts, which is where the yellow block is. Now, staff is proposing the relocation where the red square is located closer to Prado and Devlin Drive. One of the main findings towards this relocation is to consider the future expansion of any recreational activities on the park, as well as not being closer to the existing daycare facility that's currently on the site. So those are two items staff is considering. Aside from that, it's also it's still within the park, however, it's away from the recreational activities, as the condition provided by the planning commission during the April meeting. So we're considering the relocation of the site plan here. We have been collaborating with the applicant to secure the new location that will comply with the planning commission's direction. So as shown in the site plan, because of the significant change in the project location, the director has referred the approval of the final site plan to the planning commission for review. During this public hearing, and residents within 300 feet were informed of this change and public hearing for any input. The proposed site plan will be reviewed and considered for approval with necessary conditions to protect the health and safety and welfare of those surrounding. Alternatively, the site plan may be disapproved and the commission can review and reconsider the location of the project. But again, the purpose of this approval is to ensure that the proposed development is in line with the provisions of the municipal code for site plan submissions and guide the building official to issue a building permit, again, subject to an approved lease by council. Ultimately, staff is recommending for approval as provided in the staff report and agenda. And if you have any questions on the location.
And I'm sorry, Ariana, to interrupt, but through the chair, if I could just elaborate, because I'm probably the person that's causing the relocation, and I wanted to just explain why, if that's okay. There was obviously a transition between when Brian left, but I think he heard and transmitted to me that the planning commission really didn't want to have this near the basketball court. And at the time, the applicant was sort of recommending a shift, but still, I think, and you can see in the yellow, still next to the basketball court, and in this case, closer to the daycare center. So thinking about what I thought the direction was to move it as far as possible away from what is the activated area of Santana Blast Park, where not only do you have the basketball court, you have a daycare center, you have a playground area, and then a volleyball court. So it seemed that really the commission wanted it as far away from that as possible. So we identified a location that would work for the company, but also in the future, the redevelopment of this park, because we have the fields kind of set in stone, will be rehabbing and doing something with that area right there. And if the cell tower is in the way, it will make it very difficult to get grants or to be able to do something really nice with that section of the park. So for those reasons, I wanted to see that location moved as far away and in a location that wouldn't affect the future rehabilitation of the park. And so hence we came up with that corner, but at the same time, we wanted to make sure that the neighbors closest to it were notified if there were any concerns.
Thank you very much for this idea. I like it. I'm curious now, because I know the person lives across the street. Well, actually, a lot of the people in that area, more particularly one person, I'm surprised. Were they just notified, or were they given an opportunity to share any feedback? And also, did we send this in Spanish as well? Because I know a lot of the people, they don't speak English. So did they understand what the notification was in their language?
So I can talk a little bit about that. So we notified, so we get our the owners and contact information from the county. So whoever is on record, we would send it. We send the public notice in English, but we do have an expert saying that if you need this translated, please call this number and an email. That's our public noticing requirements. So that is in Spanish.
Oh,
No, it's not in English, it's in Spanish. It says, and I think we provided the notice on part of the agenda, saying, si este aviso ocupa traducción, please contact us, o llame este número. I did not get any phone calls in the past when we've done notices like this. I would get phone calls and about what this means. At this time, I don't have any that would pertain to this item.
Something like that, if a person doesn't really understand it in English, obviously, you give them the option to call. But what are they calling about? If they don't understand the impact it may have, on them and their family. Again, I guess I'm not happy that the whole notification was not transcribed in Spanish. Only because, like I said, I know a lot of people and family that lives there that don't speak English. Some of them don't even know how to read.
Through the chair, I know that there is legal challenges with translating, and that's why jurisdictions don't do it, because they want to make sure to be able to describe it better. and work with the applicant. And if there's a mistranslation, it could affect the public hearing, but I think we can do some outreach to those neighbors so that they understand what it's gonna be.
So I'm on the other side, I don't like it at all. The fact that it's in the corner, it's not just the tower, it's the fencing around it, right? Also, that comes along with it. So, visually, I don't think it's gonna be very pleasant to see there in one of a very busy corner. If the conversation is about the safety of the kids in the preschool, is there studies that show that they're being affected, or where is that coming from?
I think just having a big fenced area near where they come in and out of is just, that we can't really talk about the safety. Under cell tower, areas, it's more about being in close proximity to that in terms of having a fenced area that might be an attractive nuisance for kids to try to, climb into. And again, the issue with, the future redevelopment of the city's park.
That portion that you're referring to as part of the potential redevelopment, if we're lucky enough to get a grant, is the part between the basketball field or the basketball court and the field? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, that would be the area.
So I've been there, I played on the court, on the field. And I mean, it's just open space. So what would that look like that would put this towering tower in the corner with a huge fence on the opposite side? So what would that development look like if something like that would happen up here?
So in terms of the future redevelopment, if we were to expand that top shelf area of Santana Blast Park, it would potentially bar us from expanding or creating new active areas. That was the concern. Because then we, have to renegotiate the lease, move that structure down. I think there would be an opportunity to look at how to design the fencing in a way of screening it. I think in some other parks it is kind of at the pretty visible corners, but we could look at better screening or, again, the planning commission can determine if the location should be back where it was originally.
Another factor, I believe, back then when we kind of picked that area was the idea of the design of the tower, the tree that comes along with it, that it would blend in with the trees that are around there. So that was another factor that we took into consideration. For me, again, I don't like the location of it. It's a nice green area there, and to put a big fence around it, I don't like the location of it.
Yeah, and I know it's not shown, but it is set back about 34 feet from both corners, so it is set back a bit. And there are, mitigations that you can consider in terms of the fencing, to make sure that it's more attractive. And that it's screened. I think what they're proposing to do is put landscaping around it, so it should look more like a landscaped area, not a big fence. I don't know if there's a way that the planning commission, again, it's your decision on the location, but some of these things might be able to be a condition of approval as well.
And then we do have the applicant who wanted to speak on the item.
You can ask them now.
They could present, and then if you have any questions to the applicant.
Okay.
No.
Welcome.
Thank you. You have a presentation.
Your name?
My name is Michelle Fernandez with SNC Wireless on behalf of Verizon Wireless, and then on Zoom, we have Paul Albritton, who does represent Verizon. Paul, did you want to speak and introduce yourself at this time?
Yes, good evening, Chair Cruz, members of the Planning Commission. It's our third appearance before you, and we're pleased to be here. And I'll speak a moment at the end of the presentation.
Thank you, Ariana. We are here to present the Soledad High School facility. We do appreciate this opportunity to speak to you about our project again. Paul Albritton will speak at the end of my presentation when we are available for any questions at the conclusion. We're back today to discuss the location of the Verizon cell tower at Blas Santana Park. To begin, we're just going to note the application timeline quickly as it relates to our project now. Next slide, please. We've been over most of this timeline, but in 2017, early 2017, the radio frequency engineer identified a gap in service for voice and data capacity in the network of Northern Soledad, and Verizon started to investigate sites in Soledad to place a cell tower. December 30th, 2022, the application and supporting materials were submitted to the planning division, and on March 9th, there was a planning commission hearing here. At that hearing, the project was continued to April 13th due to design. Planning Commission wanted more information on design options. We came back on April 13th with design options and material boards, and a 70-foot monopine tree pole was accepted by the Planning Commission with the landscaping also requested by the Planning Commission. Bottom of that, but on July 6th, there was a request by the previous city manager before providing the Planning Commission resolution and approval to move the site southwest of the location that was described on April 13th. So we did have it a bit to the east, right below the basketball court. We had discussed moving it down the basketball court on April 13th. That's what we did. We moved it west. Then we got an email stating that the previous city manager wanted it moved a little bit more southwest, closer to the soccer field. And then on July 11th, there was a request by the new city manager to move the site across the park on the corner of Prado and Gavilan, just like you saw was presented by Ariana. August 16th, City Council had a closed session meeting to discuss the new proposed location and how to address the lease as well. So the location was discussed and the lease was discussed, and now today, November 30th, we are here to affirm the new location or a location designated by the planning director / city manager. And we are trying to get an approval today on a location so we can move to city council, move forward with the lease and bring more reliable service to Northern Soledad. Next slide, please. Here you can see the project. It's a monopine design. It's 70 feet tall. This design as a monopine and this height would allow for a co-locator, which means that another carrier can be below Verizon's antennas and another tower does not have to be built in the area. Another carrier can come onto our tower. This was the original location next to the basketball court, and we tried to blend it into the landscape along a row of established evergreen trees. We did add the landscaping that was not included as a part of our design on the April 13th PC meeting. Next slide, please. This is the facility design. You can see the antennas at the top. There's a chain link fence surrounding the bottom. There will be fake bark on the tree trunk, and then again, it will be surrounded in landscaping to blend in with the park aesthetic. Next slide, please. Here's some photo simulations of what the tower would look like. This is off Gavilan Drive. So the first picture is the previous location. You can see the tower, the tallest tree right below that cloud over there across the park, and then the new location on the corner of Prado and Gavilan Drive. This is what it would look like, with the landscape and the trees in the background. Next slide, please. This is a site plan. Previously, that box was to the east, on the east side of the basketball court. We moved it west per the PC decision on April 13th. And then next slide, please. Like Ariane showed you, we then again moved it to the corner of Prado. Next slide, please. The resolution was adopted on April 13th, like was stated. This design has already been approved. So the project was approved, with the condition that the location decision was made by the city manager as a condition of approval. Public notices were sent out this time. They were sent out the first time. No public came forward the first time for the March 9th planning commission. No public commented in opposition this time for the new location, and the design has been approved by the planning commission. We did have landscaping. This is our third time here. We do hope that we can approve a location today that's accepted by the planning commission, and that was provided by the city manager and accepted by Verizon. So we can move forward with this project, get a lease in place with the city, and bring reliable coverage to Soledad. And again, I'm here to answer any questions. And
Yeah. Paul Albritton here. Thank you, Michelle. I want to echo quickly what Michelle has said. We've been working with the city attorney, the city manager for the last 8 months to try and resolve the location of this facility. As you saw from Michelle's presentation, Verizon Wireless since 2017 identified an over congestion of its network in Soledad. This is because of increased usage, obviously expansion of Soledad, and the increased usage of every one of the mobile devices that they carry. Now, 6 years later, Verizon Wireless needs to move forward with a project to improve its service, relieve the congestion in its network in Soledad. We very much respect your opinion. It's our third time before the Planning Commission, and this is currently scheduled to go before the City Council on December 13th. So we would like to get some kind of decision from you this evening, the original location, the current location, or if you were to do so, leave it to the City Council on the December 13th to determine, exactly the location. But we're in a position where we really need to move forward to get this facility up and running to serve the community of Soledad and not run the risk of any kind of crisis or other situation where the network would fail because of congestion. And again, we're here to answer questions and really appreciate all the time you've spent on this application.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Do you guys have questions?
No, there's a public hearing.
Oh, okay.
How many different carriers are across? Oh, sorry.
We can ask some questions, but this time I'll open up the public hearing. As mentioned before.
I'm in a hearing. I can't talk, sorry.
Sorry. Members of the public may address the planning commission. They're limited to 3 minutes. Please be brief and to the point, and open it up at 7:09. Hey, go ahead.
Oh, it would be the public hearing for.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
thought we were gonna ask them questions.
no, it would be for the
Public hearing.
Yes,
So any members of the public or anyone on Zoom?
we have a letter we have to do, yeah.
But no one on Zoom.
Yeah.
Dear Chair Cruz, Vice Chair Bettis Rivera, and Commissioners, we write on behalf of Verizon Wireless to ask you to affirm the location in Blossom China Park, located by the Community Economic Development Director for the approved wireless facility camouflaged as a pine tree. The approved facility with the pine tree design conditional use permit already approved at the April 13th, 2023 hearing. The Commission's remaining task is to affirm the location selected by the Director. The commission's April approval included direction for Verizon Wireless to work with the director to determine a final location away from the basketball court on the north side of the park near Murata Street. Verizon Wireless has worked faithfully with staff to select the new location in the southeast corner of the park near the intersection of Galawan Drive and Prado Drive. The unused southeast corner is suitable for the approved facility, which will not require removal of landscaping or interfere with recreational activities and will pose no traffic impact. As previously approved by the planning commission, the approved facility will include a 70-foot tower facility camouflaged as a pine tree, placed within a 625 square foot lease area, surrounded by an 8-foot chain link fence with slats. The equipment area will contain radio cabinets and power supply equipment. Verizon Wireless will plant cayenne and coffee berry bushes around the perimeter of the equipment area. There will be a space on the tower for future co-location of antennas by another wireless carrier, minimizing the need for additional towers in the area. Verizon Wireless appreciates the opportunity to work with the city to secure an acceptable location for the approved facility in Gladstone Antenna Park. We urge the commission to approve the site plan showing the location selected by the director. Yours truly, Paul B. Albritton.
Thank you.
And through the chair, I did want to clarify or suggest a couple of different things. One, it is this planning commission's ability to state, you know, maybe there was a misinterpretation of what you had meant in terms of moving it away from the basketball court. But the second thing is that the city council will also have to decide on the lease and are also interested in the location. So one suggestion I might have to relieve Verizon is you could make a strong recommendation for the location, but defer to city council the ultimate decision. That way they know your direction, but Verizon doesn't get caught up in a chicken and the egg thing where they say something different from you and then they don't have a lease at the lease discussion is prolonged. So that might be a good way of working through this as just a suggestion. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There are no other public comments. We'll close the public comment section at, sorry,
My
Thank you.
apologies.
7:13. Okay. Now, you may ask questions.
How many multiple carriers will be joining that?
It's up to the other
Depends.
carriers. No other carriers have reached out to us as of now. I mean, for the 70-foot tower, potentially 2. But it would really depend on who needs coverage in this area and what antenna height they're looking for.
What was the range again of the antenna?
I don't have a radio frequency specialist with us. It's going to better service northern Soledad since there is already a tower at in downtown at Boston Park.
Okay.
So our objective is Soledad High School, this residential area, the park, and more of northern Soledad.
No, it's not the most beautiful place to put it.
Well, and I was wondering about the range because
Yeah,
with the new development,
what's coming in.
yeah, will it reach that or will another tower be required later in the future? So.
Mhm.
How far is the new development?
Mileage wise from there, half a mile,
Half a mile will benefit half a mile away.
but the development will stretch.
Yeah, beyond
Stretch
that.
further.
About a mile or so.
Paul Albritton here. Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, the range of a cell tower is generally 1.5 to 2 miles. It was very interesting to hear about your annexation and the potential doubling of the size of Soledad. So I think with the progress of technology, there will be towers in the future, but that's the general range of the tower, about 2 miles.
Development will be a while anyway, so.
Okay,
Well, I know one of the Verizon partners, and they service our area. And if you're on Front Street page on Facebook, you know that there's major issues with connectivity on a consistent regular basis. If you utilize those services, and I know they bounce off of you guys, so I am a client, so I do understand that need. You know, looking at the space where it's at is kind of like strange, as you were saying. However, you know, you guys have been doing this since 2016, 17. So I'd like to hear the thoughts of the other my colleagues over here. I think this is kind of like those
Well,
electrical
But
poles.
just to be clear, right, so the location the original location and then the proposed location, like a couple feet away, it was okay with Verizon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I should clarify that this was generated with the concern about the future redevelopment of that space. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of parks in town. This particular area is the one that's gonna be redeveloped.
Through the chair, one of the parks that people have expressed most concern or interest in is Santana Blas or Blas Santana Park. That's kind of like I think one of the most active parks, and a lot of, maybe because it's proximity to the high school. But like I said, you know, if the desires of the planning commission is to go back to their original location, if you feel that that's a better approach. One suggestion I have is that we could put that recommendation forth to the city council. And I think they would be very interested in your feedback on that. And but by deferring that decision to them, then we don't complicate the lease. Matt, I don't want them to be caught between the chicken and the egg in case the city council has a different thought process about location.
Did they have that thought before, when they went through the first time?
Well, we were only talking about the lease terms. The whole original generation of this came up when there was a need for income to put into the lights, and the lease process was delayed. And so I think the council thinking is a little bit different today than it was back then. So. And they would have to, you know, if it does come, they would discuss your recommendation and the location.
So I know for me, I can't get over the 8-foot fence, and then the generator equipment. It sits on a hill, so it's gonna be like even higher from the street. So for me, I'm leaning towards keeping it where it was. I don't know what everybody else kind of thinks.
yeah.
You know, for me, I'm still bothered by the fact that it wasn't translated in Spanish. And the reason being is we don't know, the research isn't conclusive of whether or not it does impact people, right? The cell tower, the radiation, or any of that. I get it. And we're not gonna figure it out right here. We're not the people to do so. That concerns me, but obviously I'm not gonna make the decision based on any conclusive data. But, you know, I'm just reading here that there's also impacts to, there may be impacts to medical devices, including pacemakers, insulin pumps, and so forth. That, like I said, people may not understand. My mom had a pacemaker and didn't really understand, you know, that she couldn't go through the airport security. I had to be there. So there's things that people may not understand that may have impacts. And we go back to, if people don't understand that the cell tower is going in and how it may impact them. How would people sit out? So, that's just.
Paul Albritton here. May I make a brief comment or is the comment closed?
Go ahead.
First of all, again, thank you for your consideration. If push came to shove, Verizon Wireless has done all the soil samples and all the engineering to place the facility somewhere within 30 feet or so of the originally proposed location. The legal description has been worked out with the city attorney, and so it would expedite our ability to implement the facility by a half a year at least if we were to stick with the original location. My second quick point is that the facility will fully comply with all FCC safety guidelines, and we've submitted reports to that effect. So as you know, the commission can't consider issues with respect to RF emissions when we comply with the FCC guidelines, which we do.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, just trying to think of all the options. That location, I mean, it's good that it's away from everything. But as Commissioner Diaz mentioned, it's on a hill, it's higher than the other trees. If any of those trees were to fall, you know. Plus being on the corner, I know there's been accidents, people driving too fast. Of course, the other location is close to the daycare, so.
If I may, Commissioner Diaz, the original location that you were speaking of, was that to the east side of the basketball court or when it was moved 30, 50 feet west?
So when it was moved, so it was proposed, I believe, initially like right in the middle of the court, and then it got moved to the side.
Mhm.
So when it got moved to the side, I think that's when everybody agreed on that.
Mhm. Yes.
As far as the safety of it goes, I mean, if we're having the safety, you know, talk, it shouldn't be at a park, right? But it's gonna be at a park. And I think our discussion is aesthetically, how does it look? That's what we're discussing.
Well, I mean, I do like that. My other concern was the fencing and graffiti, but being covered by the bushes.
I mean, the bushes are gonna be 1-2 feet tall.
But what,
No, they're trees, I think.
what I can mention was that we can approve it and let the city council decide on the location.
So then it's
Look,
getting
you,
that-
you wouldn't have to approve it. What you could do is you could recommend, the original location, for example, for the city council to make the decision, but the planning commission's recommendation is the original location. If that's a consent, you know, if that's where this group wants to go. Or if there's not a consent, you know, if there's not a majority vote here, the other thing is we could put forth your concerns to the planning commission. That's another option about the location.
Well, I wasn't here for that first meeting, so, you know, just looking at the information, I mean, I actually concur with you, being an educator, to move it away from the preschool area, the daycare center area. I understand the aesthetics component, you know, what was that gonna look like, but having traveled just recently, I did notice that some of the towers have become very aesthetically pleasing to the point where it's kind of difficult, as long as there's the appropriate, you know, landscaping around it, to even notice that it's actually a tower unless you look closely. Now, in regards to the safety concerns, I mean, we have our phones up on our faces and things like that, and I understand that's an issue too, but. You know, for me, I think the one question I have is, how was this location decided upon at the beginning of this process? A while back, like how was that? Was it decided based on,
So that was not the original.
well, I mean the park. So Lost Park being the space that was chosen, versus another area within or right outside the city area, especially considering that there is gonna be the new annexation and things that are coming in. So that's my question, being that I'm seeing this, I've read it, but I did not have that background since I was out in that meeting.
5 different locations.
Yeah, we get about 7 different locations that we looked at, and what we try to do is, go per the code and what's preferred. So what's preferred, of course, is co-locations, so antennas on any really tall buildings. There's no really tall buildings in the area, then you move to co-locations on other towers.
Mhm.
Like we're making this tower co-locatable. There's a tower, Boston Parks, it's 2, we're there already. And the other parks in the area, we try to pick, public facilities like parks, city-owned areas. That's the next preferred. So we looked at Veterans Park, and we also looked at Peverini Park, and they're all a little bit too distant for the coverage objective of the radio frequency engineer. Again, the coverage objective is, Soledad High School in that area. And so this park, was zoned public facilities. It's near that area, and it's gonna give coverage, to northern Soledad.
Okay.
There's also a couple PG&E towers surrounding this area that we can, sometimes co-locate on, but they're all too distant as well. So we look at co-locations first, and then pretty much city-owned parcels next.
So I'm hearing like there's a big bump needed for the high school usage and the amenities.
And we did have a relationship with high schools, we did try to, put a tower there, and we could not come to an agreeable lease with the high school, and we did move on, and the city of Soledad was interested. With this Blast Antenna Park location, we've spoken with the city attorney, city surveyor, city architect, a long time ago about this design, about this location, revised our surveys for them, done a lot of work on the original location, for a couple of years. I thought this was the most appropriate place, and thought the city of Soledad was gonna be supportive and responsive to it.
Thank you for the information and the history. Mhm. I give kids coverage, but at the same time, yeah, you wanna, for the good of it all, so,
What do you think about the location?
yeah, it's a good stuff. And
You know, originally I said I agree with the location, but I said. In my research, like I said, my safety concerns, the inconclusive research. You know,
well, I live down the street, so I know that coming up, I'm gonna see that tower whenever I drive.
did you
coming
get a
up.
notification?
I'm further than 300.
Oh, okay.
Whatever
First
the,
area.
yeah, but, yeah, I live probably about a block and a half down, so. I mean, I think, you know, given that it's sounding like we're all kind of on the fence about actually making a recommendation for the space at this point in time. I think there's information that was being shared about, you know, the park being restructured. And they probably have an idea already of what it's gonna look like, or some tentative plans somewhere along the line, so.
So I'm looking at,
Through the chair, I did want to clarify, we don't have
Have
plans
plans, okay.
now. We're just in the process of doing a parks master plan.
Okay.
so this is the location right there.
Mhm.
So what can realistically be developed there?
So it'd be this space for her.
You know, that little chunk right there. That's where it was proposed,
Uh-huh.
right there.
Unless they're gonna take all this out.
Yeah.
And then put bleachers here.
Potential.
Potentially. And then redo this space here and the basketball courts. I see where they have to work around it. This would have to be that daycare center would have to
It's still
be
the
moved,
Yeah.
or would it become more of like?
That's the
a-
restroom.
Oh, is that the
No
restroom?
location.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
restroom.
The big, is over
So
there.
there.
So the idea was over
Just
there
at
to
the
kind of
new
tuck it
location.
away.
I don't know if we can bring up, maybe if it
Aerial?
would help to bring up an aerial so that we can ensure that the public can see what's being looked at.
So just the Google map of Lawson Center, please.
Thank you for that.
City council.
Appreciate it.
And it's, and again, to be fair to the planning commission, we conveyed that you wanted it far away from the basketball court, so the council, I think, will be interested in a preferred location, which to me at this point will be either this location or the original location. I have to probably like get out
Oh.
because our laser pointer doesn't work on the TV. So it's very weird, but yeah. zoom in.
Kicking the bucket down.
Yeah.
Right. That even if we made a recommendation, they could change the recommendation anyways, right?
Yeah.
City council has that,
That,
yeah, oversight of your, yeah.
So what possibly you would do is you could figure out some way, because you have the, the field. Just as you were saying, that you could maybe figure out some way to embed seating in here. And then you would just redo all of this area up to here, is where the daycare center is. In some future. And you just would, again, it would just create a bigger challenge to work around. It's not impossible, but, that was one of the thoughts. And that's kind of why we thought you wanted to be away from the basketball court. I didn't have the benefit to understand what the concern was with the basketball court. The other nice thing is, having been here, parents can kind of look, they can be in the tot lot. And they can look and watch their kids playing in the field. Being in the middle would kind of obstruct that view, but maybe it's not that important. And I do understand we have this same concerns about, this is a very visible point. And we even thought about putting it here. Back a little bit, but I think this has a different elevation change, so it presents some challenges. But I think we could present the planning commission's preference, but just wanted.
So to be clear, so the original was about the middle of the basketball court, and then the recommendation was to the left of it, right?
Yeah, to move it closer to the daycare.
Yeah.
and the
Which would
reason,
be very close, as you can kind of see.
yeah, and the reason for that was to kind of obstruct it, correct? Like,
Took it away.
tuck it away. And so that's why it wasn't addressed to go on the far end where the volleyball courts are.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the reasons, and so then now a proposal is this one on the corner here. So how far away? I mean, what is the distance between, the sidewalk and the next home, I guess? How far, what is the distance?
Which sidewalk, the one on,
Well, say that the tower comes up on that corner, right? So it comes out up on that corner. As an educator, I think people who live in this space, they've got their routers, they've got their stuff, they've got all this electronic equipment in their homes. And I know one of the biggest issues and concerns that I see on the front street, Facebook stuff is there's no connectivity. Okay, it's a huge issue. And I know a lot of them use the same service provider that I do, and that is an issue. And I understand how it works is, Verizon has their primary customers and then secondary opening of streaming
But to
connectivity.
be
goes on,
clear, right,
so.
the service is not gonna change whether you put it on this corner or the original slot.
Over here.
Yeah, the service is still gonna be the same.
Correct. However, what I'm looking at, and again, I'm partial to kids, so I prefer it. I mean, it's still in a park. That's why I look at it, but keeping it from the littles to me is different than, you know, having people know it's there, having people that are, you know, utilizing the park, but having it so close to the littles, to me, just because we don't like the aesthetics, to me,
But
that's.
again, like, do we have the environmental impact on the little, on the kids? Do we have that information to make that decision? I don't think we do. I think.
Right, because we
I
could
mean-
say the same thing if you put it on the other
yeah,
part.
it's-
Sergio's family lives in 3 of these corners.
So,
We do a radio frequency report from a third party vendor and it states that we're well below FCC limits and of course the federal government's not gonna let us build a tower that's unsafe for any of the public. And so those reports tell us that we're able to build. a
And I'm
tower in a certain
assuming
height
whatever-
within urban centers.
harm happening to kids, whether if it's next to them or across the park, the effect is the same.
The proximity.
So again, that's just me.
So the issue is aesthetics, not the
That's
actual
what the-
tower.
That's what the commission is for.
As far as conditions. It's a condition on the council.
The action tonight is to approve the site plan, because it's coming
Yeah.
to planning commission, you can set up conditions of approval to the site plan. If any, or approve it as it is. But again, we need for the record, we need a motion, of whatever recommendation of approval
Yeah,
you're willing to take.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and like I said, you can, if it's hard for you to make that decision and you wanna kick it to the council, you can do that with their recommendation. Cause they still have to act on the lease itself.
so as far as if the tower goes in this new proposed location, I mean, it'd be standing alone. Planting trees around it, like full grown trees. There's nurseries that sell, and will plant the trees, but is that something we would do as a city or, I mean, I don't even know about asking Verizon to do it, it's just.
So just to clarify your question, in the proposed location, if planning commission is able to require new trees around the new, monopine, is that?
I think
Something like that.
that's what you're
Okay.
suggesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
That there are additional
Just wanted to clarify.
trees around it, so it doesn't look like it's just by itself. I don't know if you could pull up that rendering
That's the
at
inside
the
of it.
corner.
Yeah. But then the other picture is the,
Do you have any information
Yeah,
about what the
like the
height
trees.
differential is between the
supposed to cover
proposed
the
and the new
fence.
location?
That's the fence, no?
if you
The
zoom-
elevation. I believe it's pretty similar, it would be on the plan, but the
Okay,
numbers are on the plan.
theoretically, the trees would cover it. Yeah, I'm just gonna, well,
And this is off Prado Drive, I think, really.
so as far as making the requirement of trees being planted, I would have to put that on,
On the motion, yeah.
but on somebody, Verizon or the city or
it
Or
would
is it
be a
just-
condition of approval.
that Verizon plant them or that the
Yeah.
city plant them.
No, that Verizon would plant them. There are some existing trees already there. I don't know if we have a map view.
Along Prado, maybe, but
Or can we do the street view? Maybe
Yeah,
that would help.
street view might help
shoot, this is,
on Gavilan, so you
Wow.
can see the.
there's this,
Where it's probably looking more like a lonely tree is the view from Prado.
Mhm.
Because that's the view from Gavilan, so there are trees right there.
So
So it's really the Prado view that's,
So I have a question. So looking at it here, originally it was gonna be placed here.
Mhm.
And then it was moved, oh, first they were
So
saying
there, in
Here.
the middle, and then,
moved here.
yeah,
How come it wasn't brought over here?
because of the height, I think, because you know how there's like a little hill there,
Uh-huh.
I believe,
Yeah, I think that.
yeah, probably the original recommendation we had is probably would be higher and might be a little bit more impactful to the residents.
it's a nice corner, there were no plans.
And we could present two recommendations for the council, like if you're, you know, if two or three of you, or if you know, I hear two on one end and two on the other, you could say, you know, we'd like you to consider whatever the original location is, the one in the middle or the one further away from the basketball court, closer to the youth, and or on the corner. And if you go on the corner, we'd like to see some trees planted on Prado. You know, you could defer to them if you don't have a. I know it's a hard decision.
The original location. The condition they provided council with the radiation report research.
Under
I think you already have that,
the
right?
FCC regulations, that's not a consideration for them.
Because that shouldn't be an issue. Right,
Yeah,
so,
she said-
Yeah, the issue has to do more about the future development of the park and the use of the park in the future.
If I make a motion, but it doesn't pass, then. Then we can recommend it goes to the council and they,
I probably would recommend you do that anyhow,
Okay.
because my fear for Verizon is if the council, I mean, you could make a motion. But if the council goes a different way, I don't want them to be back at square one, so I would recommend maybe you make a firm recommendation to them.
can we do like an informal kind of like poll where we see where we're at? If, for example, I'm a no, I'm gonna keep it where it's at, and then based on what we choose, then make the motion.
I think all the decisions have to have a motion.
Yeah, no, I would suggest that one suggestion I do have, and you can take it or leave it. Is because if council ultimately, it's a little bit difficult because council ultimately has a decision on a lease. And should they opine on the location, I don't want them to be told to come back to the
Yeah.
planning commission. So my recommendation would be you make a recommendation of the location where it's at and defer the decision to the council as part of the lease. And then I'm sure that they will strongly consider a recommendation, especially if there's a consensus.
you said where it's at, you mean the original location or?
Where we already have agreed to the site.
Yeah.
I apologize for making it difficult.
No, that's okay. I mean, I think if you wanted to make that motion, are you comfortable recommending with a recommendation to city council, or do you want the decision to come here?
Well, part of me is, like, that's why we're here for. Um,
So I think what you were asking is if we can, take a poll here internally before we make a recommendation.
correct, but is that possible?
No, they didn't.
No, I would just,
It's a discussion.
I would make a you have two options. One is a decision on the site plan, which is fine. Or one is a recommendation to council. My recommendation to you, because this is a little bit of a chicken and an egg thing where they have to make a decision on the lease. And I don't want to put Verizon through a situation just in case council says, no, we want this other location. I want to make sure that they don't have
So
to.
what if we have 3 yeses that wanna keep it, or 3 yeses that wanna move it?
We would in the report, we could do two things. You could make that decision and then council doesn't have that decision. Or you can make that recommendation to council and we would put it into the city council report and the public would know, they would know. And I'm sure they would take that very seriously. Their considerations are a little bit different because they're thinking about the park, you know, more in a global perspective.
And that was my question to you, is that we can make a recommendation, but ultimately. City council can override that. They have the right to override the decision and make their own decision based on what they know. Or the big picture, so to speak, of revitalization of the park, anything else that they're doing at this point in time, correct? And I know there's not a plan, but there's gotta be some ideas percolating.
They can make a decision on the lease, but the site plan, unless you. Unless you defer that to them, then it might have to come back to, the planning commission. So I'm trying to avoid that from Verizon, but it's really your decision whether or not you wanna make a recommendation or a decision.
So I would like to suggest that we make a recommendation to do the original location that we agreed upon in the last meeting.
It's kind of like what we did with Brian. You know, we had our conditions, we gave him the authority to approve it, but things changed. So,
I don't think that was clear, cause I think the direction was to move it further away from the basketball court. So. If you would like to make that recommendation, I just want clarification, when you say the original location, if you mean the one that is
Oh.
on yellow or the original
Yellow.
one that they brought?
I would say the yellow, which is what we agreed upon.
Okay. Okay,
Was that a
I
motion?
don't know, and I'm just,
Cause if it's a motion, we need a vote.
yeah, I'll make the motion to,
I think you had a motion
or,
from,
I just
oh,
wanna
you
put
did,
that-
oh, sorry.
yeah, I heard you make the motion, and so we just need a second. Sorry to interrupt, Chair.
Sorry, I didn't hear the key part. I'll second that. So I could get roll call vote,
Chair Roberto Cruz,
aye.
Vice Chair Josie Perez Aguilera,
I,
Commissioner Sandy Forte,
Aye.
Commissioner Sergio Diaz.
Alright,
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll take it to council with the recommendation from planning commission and they can move forward with that or if they choose the proposed location, that way you don't have to come back.
Okay, and city council meetings the 13th, you know, the 20th?
The 13th, yeah.
If the lease is also okay, I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would bring them with the lease.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very much.
And,
Thank you.
yeah, Paul, if you're still there, thank you. Thought I heard. Unless it was, no, thought I heard something.
Paul? No, he's not, okay. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Then that. happens. Looks like we have no commission business on the agenda. The next item is the Community and Economic Development Department report, and the Community and Economic Development Department verbal report by City Manager Megan Hunt. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks. Sorry, I know that was the challenge. I just, one thing I wanted to note is that we will have an item before council on the 6th to appoint a planning commissioner. So there were 3 candidates, and we're going to be putting forth the recommendation of the mayor for city council confirmation. And I think the other thing we wanted to report is we are I mentioned we are doing a parks master plan effort in addition to the general plan and the housing element. And so we will have an opportunity to kind of at some point I think hopefully they'll be finalizing that report. We can present that to the planning commission just as we're moving forward with the general plan for thinking about what we want to see in the general plan moving forward. And we're scheduled to submit, hopefully, our plan is to submit our final housing element to HCD on December 8th. We did try to take comments that we heard during the joint session with city council, and we've subsequently heard some other feedback from the community through the public review process. So we tried to beef up the housing element based on the feedback that we heard before we submit the final version to HCD. So sorry it took so long, but we really wanted to make sure that we tailored it to Soledad. We heard it felt a little not specific to our needs. So, and I think that's it. We have a lot of stuff coming forward. The CUP will be coming forward for the Soledad Marketplace. We have an affordable housing plan amendment for a project that will be heard from city council soon. And I think just we're gonna be busy coming up. And I don't know, Ariana, if you wanted to add any other things.
No, it's again, it's an exciting time as we're working with our housing element and our general plan. So as information comes forward, we'll present it over to planning commission. I know I do want to clarify a few things regarding the special meetings and the agenda. When it comes to special meetings, we do have 24 hours to provide the material. Therefore, that's the difference between a regular meeting. Where a regular meeting, we have to have at least 72 hours to publish an agenda. Because this meeting, it's the special is not within the same regular, the second Thursday of each month, and those that's a difference there. For items that are important for development to keep moving forward. And being the holidays and everything, we want to make sure we accomplish important items. In regards to, I know there's the commissioner's report for future agenda items or any comments you have. We are working on the previous regular meeting to bring back some of those items discussed during that time. So we're working on that, and if you have any questions, just let me know.
And one other thing, I did notice that the League of Cities has a planning academy, and so I think it's coming up in April or so. So if there's any interest in anyone participating in that, we can look for funding it for you. So just let us know.
Megan, you mentioned the parks off Prado, where the new development's happening. I see a big sign there about a park. Is there a park coming there, or what's that?
Yes, you mean Toledo Basin?
It's on Galvin Drive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. it was supposed to be a park with, and maybe you know the history better than I. I'm not sure why it didn't become a park, but with the Maryville development, it was supposed to be developed into a park and it never was. The city does own it, and so, that's part of the master plan process. I think it's a great opportunity for us to really do something cool there, so, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a basin. We don't have to have all our parks that are basins.
Yeah, that's ultimately correct. It used to be part of the subdivision for Maryville. I think it was 2 or 1, that ultimately, you know, that did not get developed at that time, and the city is the owner. I know with the meetings with park master plan, there's a lot of good potential for that area, so, it could be very exciting for the future of that area.
Okay,
Is anybody gonna fix the fence at the cemetery?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we don't have control over the cemetery, and that's an ongoing issue. I would encourage the public to reach out to LAFCO. They are doing a municipal services review of the cemetery district. And, you know, say they need to really evaluate the health of that district and whether or not, you know, they're not meeting, there's not transparency. So we could furnish you with, a contact if you guys would like.
And then how the issues about all of the semi trucks parking in neighborhoods.
Yeah, I think if I understood correctly from that meeting, I think we're still working on a truck route, if I'm not mistaken, regarding the enforcement and also the route itself for Soledad. It is being actively presented to council as well, so we can provide that material over.
Yeah, I think it may come in January, but yeah. We are going to, one of the biggest issues we have is with enforcement, and some of it is because our ordinance is pretty weak. So we're looking at beefing up our codes, so that code enforcement has some mechanism to issue heavy citations. They're pretty small right now, $25, and so, you know, it's like a park, you know, I'm just parking, you know, so that's why it's very hard to actually enforce. Yeah.
Whether enforcement are you guys looking besides like the trucks?
I think across the board, because we do have some issues with the citations and the follow-up and so forth, so we're looking at it across the board. We are going to be presenting about food trucks to council on the 6th. So if you're interested, or
I know another one is like the restrooms, like the porta potties.
Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that one is very hard because a lot of times it's not in our jurisdiction, but I do know the code enforcement officer has been out there many times. Even though we have to rely on the county,
Mhm.
and they haven't been very responsive.
I have a question that I used to bug Brian about every time. I haven't asked lately. So I'm not sure. Is there any word on, I think it was Los Coches Road being connected to Metz Road?
Which would be Pinnacles Parkway.
We are applying for funding to continue to look at that. It's a huge challenge because of eminent domain, but there's a big interest in
And the
seeing,
railroad.
seeing what we can do. And so we are, Public Works is on it, and they actually are applying for some funding to study that.
Yeah, especially with the development coming, that'd be great to not have to go.
All the way around.
Yeah.
Right?
So, but, okay. That's all the questions I had. Thank you both for those updates.
And one last question, what happened to the bike lanes?
Yeah, they came up and then they disappeared.
on Front Street.
Yeah.
On the bridge.
We had a survey from that.
Yeah, it was so it was part of a study with the Transportation Agency of Monterey County, which is TAMSI. In a collaboration with the Safe to School Routes program here in Soledad with our Public Works Department. And so the study or the information that we're gathering is how can we provide safe pedestrian traffic for those residents that are in Santa Elena mobile home, or anyone that's going through to the shopping center, walking or biking. Obviously, since the residential area is going north of the underpass. So some of the safety measures that were provided was to create bike lanes as a buffer for vehicles and pedestrians walking. One of the things that we foresee when we're talking about pedestrian safety is that if there's buffers or anything that can help protect pedestrians, they will be more inclined to walk and feel safer to walk, right? Or at least do an alternative mode of transportation rather than using their car. So they did that as a temporary study to see if something like that would help Soledad, or will it pretty much be successful with the community and increasing pedestrian traffic, or reducing concerns of pedestrian accidents. So there were temporary measures, they got the data, they went out to survey, they went out to the community to provide surveys of what they thought. Did they even experience walking through there? Do they think it's necessary? So I think a lot of the outreach was done with residents of the Santa Elena Mobile Home Park, or residents that live nearby that would travel frequently there. But I think it's my understanding that they're just gathering that data to see what really was more important and beneficial to Soledad as they move forward with any other development that comes in or whatnot.
During that time frame, I did see more people walking. I saw moms with strollers, which I normally don't see. Usually see single males on a bike or something,
Yeah.
but I did see more females using that route during that time frame. I don't know how much more, but a couple of times I did notice that I did see a difference in that, so.
So it was a great collaboration. The Monterey County Transportation Agency, TAMSI, provided all the funds and everything for Soledad to continue this program, and it's part of the Safe to School route, so it's something to interesting to see what the community wanted. All right.
Thank you. And so we'll move on to commissioners' announcements and reports. Anybody have anything to announce or report?
Soledad Merchants is gonna be having a toy drive for specifically special needs kids. It's gonna be for everyone, but we had talked about that. We know there's multiple toy drives in different places, and they focus, on the community at large. But we had discussed the fact that many times special needs children, especially those on the spectrum, do not like to go to those events because there's too much sensory activity for them, sensory overload. And so we had talked about an idea that hopefully will grow. This year will just be the toy drive, but we're hoping to find a venue where we can even do like a silent sleigh. I don't know if any of you guys ever heard about that. Where it's Santa, but there's no noise. And we focus also on getting a sign language interpreter to come in and speak to the children. And then have a quieter venue with a larger space and less children and people coming in for it, and maybe even having it like in phases so that there's less people. So that's something that Soledad Merchants is working on. And so there will be a toy drive. I know there's a toy drive over at what used to be Soledad Tires. I don't know what it's called now, but across the way. And then we're looking at finding space. I know last year the Bragas allowed us to have, the toy drive collection area there. So we're also looking at collaborating with the New Family Center with Soledad Unified School District. So that's in the works right now. So just that's it that I have to report.
Thank you. I have nothing to report at this time. No announcements either. So with that, guess we will adjourn the meeting at 8:04 PM.